A quorum being present, the committee will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the committee is meeting to consider Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolution, and the committee rules of procedure. In order to expedite proceedings, I plan to recognize members under the 5-minute rule. Any requests for recorded votes may be rolled to the end of the meeting, and the committee may recess at any point without objection, so ordered. I now recognize myself to make an opening statement. I'm pleased to join you today to officially recognize and reorganize the Committee on Homeland Security. We have a big job to do. The American people are looking to us to help the Department of Homeland Security keep America safe. These are difficult times for the 240,000 men and women who keep our borders, cyberspace, transportation, and infrastructure secure. Over the past month, they either found themselves furloughed or working without pay because the president chose to thrust us into the longest federal shutdown in the hopes of extorting money for his wall. Today, DHS remains under the threat of another shutdown. I fear that our enemies, be they terrorists or state actors, are watching. For our part, I hope this committee can continue its history of bipartisan collaboration and putting the security of our communities first. We have some new faces on the panel, as well as some returning members. To my colleagues on this committee, I say welcome and get ready to roll up your sleeves. With that, I yield to my new partner on the committee, my neighbor to the east, the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to congratulate you again on being selected to lead this important committee. We've worked together a long time, and I know it's going to allow us to hit the ground running. I look forward to your bipartisan leadership of this committee and wish you success. As you noted in your statement, this committee does vital work to oversee and authorize the Department of Homeland Security. I'm proud of this committee's bipartisan track record and our shared understanding that the department faces complex challenges at home and abroad. Last Congress, the House passed 110 bipartisan bills from our committee. That remarkable amount of legislating highlights the need for comprehensive DHS authorization. My time on this committee and the Armed Services Committee has taught me that large departments need the regular feedback and annual authorization can provide. I know members on our side of the dais are ready to dive into full-scale DHS reauthorization. I hope the first few hearings of this year focus on reauthorization package. However, I'm deeply disappointed that another rules package has come and gone without reform to Rule 10 to allow us to meaningfully address the last unfinished recommendation of the 9/11 Commission. Former Chairman McCall and I fiercely lobbied the Republican leadership, and I believe they are honestly open to change. Both Republicans and Democrats have good faith proposals to make the department better, boost morale, and make our nation safer. But we know they are doomed to death by referral to a dozen committees. I would also strongly encourage the Senate to engage more fully in DHS oversight and authorization. Too often, good legislation from the House fails to advance in the Senate due to even worse jurisdictional issues than we have. I understand that the chairman and I will have a colloquy regarding a memorandum of understanding he is pursuing similar to the one that Mr. McCall secured last Congress. I hope that agreement will remove some of the roadblocks created by our broken House rules. I would also like to thank Chairman McCall for the last 6 years. He has led this committee and produced a quantity of work that will be hard to reproduce. We are fortunate to have him continue service on this committee, and I will always look to Chairman McCall for advice and guidance in the years to come. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Rogers. For those of you who are not from the South, you understand Southern accents. And I'm sure by the time we get to moving, you'll understand that it has nothing to do with our brain. It's just the speed of the speech. So bear with us. Again, thank you, Ranking Member Rogers. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. It's my understanding that there is agreement on the measures. As such, the chair will be asking unanimous consent to consider these measures en bloc in the interest of time. I now recognize the ranking member.
I request the chairman yield to me for the purpose of engaging in a colloquy.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for purpose of engaging in a colloquy.
Mr. Chairman, can you clarify how the committee will approach subpoenas and depositions for the 116th Congress?
I thank the gentleman. Regarding Rule 12, as the ranking member knows, I welcome bipartisan collaboration on the committee. With respect to subpoenas, I'll pledge to the ranking member that when practicable, the full committee will meet to consider subpoenas, and I would anticipate that only in exigent circumstances where we may not be in session will I move to issue a subpoena outside of the committee meeting. With respect to deposition authority, I'll say that whenever the majority intends to schedule a deposition, I'll endeavor to provide notice of not less than 3 days to the ranking member to afford minority staff the opportunity to participate in such proceedings and to claim equally divided questioning time. With that, I yield back to the ranking member.
I thank the chairman for this clarification and yield back.
As previously noted, there are 2 organizational matters for the committee's consideration. After consultation with the ranking member, there's bipartisan agreement to adopt the 2 measures noticed by unanimous consent. Pursuant to that agreement, I now call up the committee's rules of procedure, as well as Committee Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolutions. Copies of these measures are circulated in advance. Without objection, the readings are dispensed with and the measures are open for amendment at any point. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Without objection, the committee adopts the committee rules for the 116th Congress and Committee Resolution 1, the staff hiring resolution. Hearing no objection, each measure is adopted by the committee. Without objection, staff is authorized to make any technical and confirming changes. Finally, I want to note that the folder that has been provided to members include an oath that pursuant to committee rules must be executed before members may have access to classified information. I'd ask that all members sign that document and provide it to the committee clerk before leaving today. Before I close, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our members, announce the leadership for our 6 subcommittees, and our vice chair. On our Democratic side, we have 4 fresh persons. Unbelievable that you can come to Congress, and on your first time here, you become a full subcommittee chair. Amazing. Yeah. Some of us understand how long it took. So we have Congresswoman Torres Small of New Mexico, who's sure to bring a real-world understanding of life on the southwest border. Welcome. Congress Torres Small will serve as chairwoman of the Oversight, Management, and Accountability Subcommittee. Next, we have, or should I say, U.S. Army Captain Max Rose of New York City, a war hero who to this day continues to serve and protect as a reservist. Congressman Rose will serve as the chairman of the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Subcommittee. Welcome, Captain. Next, there is Congresswoman Lauren Underwood of Illinois. Chairwoman Underwood is sure to bring substantial medical expertise to the challenge of helping communities prevent, prepare for, and respond to public health emergencies. Chairwoman Underwood will serve as the vice chair of the full committee. Welcome. Look forward to your leadership. We also have Congresswoman Elisa, Sloskin of Michigan joining the committee. Congresswoman Sloskin, substantial service as a CIA Middle East analyst will most certainly enhance the committee's counterterrorism efforts. Welcome. In addition to those Representatives Torres Small and Rose, we are fortunate to have great members lined up to lead our subcommittees. Congressman Cedric Richmond will be leading the Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Protection, and Innovation Subcommittee, who on most days hails from New Orleans, Louisiana. We welcome to have him. Congressman Don Payne Jr. From New Jersey will lead the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery Subcommittee. Congresswoman Kathleen Rice will be leading the Border Security, Facilitation, and Operations Subcommittee. We're glad to have Congresswoman Rice is with us today. Congressman Lou Correa of California will be at the helm of the Transportation and Maritime Subcommittee. Finally, I'd like to, before I yield to the ranking member for purposes of introducing his members, I'd like to acknowledge that we are privileged to have a distinguished group of Homeland Security alumni returning to the panel to contribute to the committee's most important work. We have Reverend Mayor Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver from Kansas City, Kansas, and we have former member of the Intelligence Cyber Subcommittee, Yvette Clark, from Brooklyn, New York. And we've already decided that the person I'm about to introduce will have our first field hearing in her district, Congresswoman Dina Titus from Las Vegas, Nevada. So we look forward to the field hearing. We have Congresswoman Barragan, who is now on what committee? Energy and Commerce. Congratulations. Who also worked diligently on port security and a lot of other issues in her district. We welcome her back, as well as the sheriff of Orange County, Florida, Congresswoman Val Demings. Mr. Deputy Sheriff, I got my law enforcement person on my side, and Mr. Rogers, you got yours.
That's right.
Oh, and I'm always looking this way. We also have Mr. Langevin, who's actually our cyber expert on the committee here, who actually came back some time ago. We're happy to have him, and we look forward to his leadership, who's also the former Secretary of State for Rhode Island. So we're happy to have you. And I yield to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that Ms. Titus is from Nevada, but she sounds like she could be from Mississippi or Alabama.
Well, I think she's from Georgia.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, originally, but she's once removed now.
Yeah, fortunately, she hadn't lost her accent. Listen, I'd like to introduce, we have 5 freshmen on the committee from the Republican side, and first I'd like to introduce Dr. Mark Greene from Tennessee. Mark brings a wealth of experience from his time in our armed forces as a physician and a state legislator, and we're happy to have him. Mr. Van Taylor from Texas. Mr. Taylor served his country in the Marines and has served as a state legislator. I'm glad that we've got some new members with perspective from state government. So much of the department's work depends on cooperation with state and local officials. We also have Dr. John Joyce from Pennsylvania. Dr. Joyce previously served as a doctor in the United States Navy prior to opening his own medical practice in Pennsylvania. Mr. Dan Crenshaw from Texas. Mr. Crenshaw is yet another Navy veteran from joining our roster. He's done everything from serving in Afghanistan to serving as a state legislator to an assistant to Congressman Pete Sessions. I'm glad he'll be serving as the ranking member on our Oversight Subcommittee. Another freshman getting a top spot on the committee.
Absolutely.
I'm enormously proud that we have so many folks with experience in our armed forces joining this committee. Their experiences will help them understand the reality of the terrorist threat facing our nation and the frustrations of dealing with massive bureaucracies like DOD and DHS. Finally, we have Mr. Michael Guest from Mississippi. Mr. Guest served for years as a district attorney for Madison and Rankin counties. I'm hopeful he can offer perspectives on how federal government efforts and requirements impact law enforcement and justice officials at the ground level. I'd also like to thank 5 of our returning members for stepping up to serve as ranking members. Mr. Higgins, Louisiana for Border Security, Facilitation and Operations. Mr. Katko of New York for Cybersecurity, Infrastructure, Protection and Innovation. Mr. King of New York for Emergency Preparedness, Response and Recovery. Mr. Walker of North Carolina on Intelligence and Counterterrorism, and Ms. Lesko from Arizona on Transportation and Marine Security. I look forward to getting down to business this Congress, and yield back to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranking Member. Without objection, I submit for the record the full list of members of the committee and each of its subcommittees. Hearing no objection, so ordered. I want to thank the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers, and look forward to working with him and all other members of this committee. There being no further business, the committee stands adjourned.
Who do we need to give these who do we need to give the documents to?
We'll give them to the clerk. To the clerk, yes, down front.
When y'all sign your document, give it to the clerk.